Hey, so tomorrow, so I think we did this on Thursday last week. Are we doing situation alert again?
Oh, yeah.
We're just going to do various situation alerts.
Send us your situations tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's basically the tweet bag, but it's situation alert. And now the only remaining question is, do we have to set aside a segment for I have an opinion every week as well? Or should we...
I like them as a sprinkle, like at the beginning, or just do one at the beginning of a segment or one at the end of a segment.
All right, but here I have another option for you. Do we replace the tweet bag with I have an opinion? People just send in their opinions. As is mentioned in the tweet bag open that you'll hear coming up in an hour, I know it's already a very original segment, but I think we have the opportunity to make it more original, where instead of people sending in their questions, they send in their opinions, and it's called I have an opinion. And you're really you're really on your high horse about these opinions. Do you think people would be more likely to participate in this game? Less likely to participate in this game? I know it's more fun. I like it more than the tweet bag.
I like the idea of it if the audience goes with us on the journey.
I have an opinion.
We would just react to it because it would generally be, hey, my family doesn't listen to me. I have an opinion. The Cleveland Guardians are the most disappointing franchise in the history of sports, or something like that,
That would be a good opinion.
Well,
they haven't won jack.
Right.
So think about it. Swish it around.
Right now, I will swish it around, but right now, I would like to try it one time.
All right. Do we start today?
Oh.
Because today is Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday.
Now, Bamon says the opinion bag doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. No, it would just be totally rebranded. We would just call it I have an opinion.
I have an opinion.
Yeah. Welcome to the debut segment of I have an opinion. And you text in all of your texts and your tweets and whatever starting with I have an opinion, and then you say your opinion.
Should we float out this trial balloon today?
Do you think people would do it? You think? Because I'm going off of the reaction that we got last week to that, where people just kept on sending in their opinions. Even into the game on Saturday, I was getting tweets that said, I have an opinion. And I was getting a lot of situation alerts, by the way, as well. A lot of the opinions were about Peacock and the variety of, issues with that. But,
and the situations Nebraska found themselves in the first half Saturday were there was
a lot of them.
Perfect 34-yard line. You're going to kick this or not? And then I was like, oh man, they took a false start. What a genius idea.
Maybe we could do that we could just go back and review the previous week's situations for situation alert. That's how we get started. And then people send us their situations. And Bigley is saying, do it. Do it. All right.
Let's do it today.
Tell everybody on Twitter, Josh, the tweet bag has been rebranded. It's a rebrand of the tweet bag, and it's now called I Have an Opinion. And you have to send your opinions in.
All right.
Now, here's an interesting point by Thom on Twitter.
Hi, Thom.
Thom says, I have an opinion. I hate other people's opinions. Therefore, I'm assuming he's saying that he would be less likely to listen to other people's opinions on a whole segment filled with other people's opinions.
I think we got to try it, or we're never going to know.
Bamon also has a branding idea.
Oh, hi, Bamon.
The IHAP. Ooh. I have an opinion. The IHAP bag. It doesn't have to be a bag at all, guys. We can just drop the bag part. We just say this is called IHAP. Oh yeah, it would be IO.
Yeah.
Dang it. Well, it'd be funnier if you just did like lowercase, uppercase I, uppercase H, uppercase A, and then lowercase O, capital P, Indian.
Baymon used to manage the Eddies. I don't know if you caught that yesterday in the chat.
The IHOP sounds pretty cool because it's almost IHOP.
Yeah, we could get IHOP to sponsor it.
IHOP. SEAL Team Nick says IHOP. It'd be IO, I guess. On 1620, the Royals. Look, man, I'm not apologizing. Josh has informed me that I don't need to apologize about this anymore. I'm the only one. We got a bunch of other sicko baseball fans who are fans of other teams or fake posers who are fans of the Royals. We have some of those.
If the Cubs were on a World Series run, you'd be hearing about it.
It'd be 1620, the Cubs.
Yeah.
And I would be triggered the whole time. So I understand SEAL Team Nick's position. All right. So Tweebag is wiped clean. We are going with I have an opinion today. Send in your opinions, and we will get to your opinions. Hashtag, Joel says, hashtag not tweetbag. That works too. We'll open those up at noon. Get to other people's opinions, and maybe we'll sprinkle in some of our own opinions. All right, so you guys know how I refer to Nebraska football as a math equation, right? 1620 the math.
You love algebraing this Nebraska football team.
And it's a math equation because it all has to work together. It's called complementary football. Nebraska needs to be playing complementary football. They need to match up their offense with their defense. People think about football in those terms. But let me tell you something. This math equation that Nebraska is trying to have, there are other math equations where this variable, the special teams variable, is not as important. It's never unimportant. It always means something, right? You can't be exponentially horrible on special teams no matter who you are. But there are teams around the country who play football in a certain way where they're scoring a lot of points and like they're just high. Basically, I'm talking about super high octane offenses. I'm talking about teams that are going to score, 40, 50, and 60, go up and down the field, go really fast. And their whole point, their version of playing complementary football is all geared toward getting the ball back to your offense to score points. And you don't care how fast you score them, you're just going to score them. And you don't care how long the defense is on the field, is because everything is positioned so that your offense can score points. So there are teams like that across the country where special teams doesn't quite matter as much. Nebraska is not one of those teams. That is not the math equation they have chosen to try to figure out. They prefer to be a team where they possess the ball on offense, they score drives, or they score on their drives. They have a hint of explosiveness on their offensive drives. And specifically, we're talking about a missing piece on the offense. They need to be able to punch it in. They need to be able to score because they're minimizing possessions in games. When they get the ball, and especially when they get the ball on the other side of the 50 or on the other side of the 40 or on the other side of the 30, they need to score. They have to score points. And if they don't, they're fine with punting. If they don't get the ball across midfield or whatever it is, they have to punt the football. Their defense can stay in the field for a long time. They trust their defense. It's designed for that one to be rested enough so that they can, go out, play, get stops, and potentially even get turnovers. There are some things that are universal across all of the math equations, all of the styles to play football. And that's, if you get turnovers on defense, you're going to be in really good shape, right? But it tilts the scales in certain ways. Rule talked about tilting the scales from a field position standpoint on Monday when he was talking about Rutgers. It'll be one of those type of games on Saturday. This math equation, this style of team that Nebraska is trying to be, does not, cannot, and will not work if you have this bad of special teams. Point blank, period. It won't. Nebraska might be able to cover up some of that stuff by the fact that they have a quarterback who's really good, and they might have to adjust the math equation because of this. They might have to get a little bit more high tempo and up and explosive and high pace, whatever, on offense. Like, they might have to go because you're making up for the things that you lack in other areas. But I think Nebraska prefers to slow it down and run and then run play action off of that, and not necessarily be in a position where they're putting the ball in the quarterback's hands all the time on third down and they're asking him to make plays. Just extending drives and scoring. They want to be that type of team, and I think they can be that type of team. But once again, if you don't have a field goal kicking situation, whether it's the snapper or the holder or the kicker, to be able to feel like when you get to the 25-yard line, you could still get 3 points out of that, that's a problem. If you are punting the football in the wrong direction, if you are unable to chase down punts on the punt team, if you are bad at kickoff team, right? The other team is returning kicks on you a little bit, which you've seen a couple teams spring a couple this year, most notably Colorado in that second game of the season. It's not sustainable. According to the SP Plus right now, Bill Connolly's SP Plus on ESPN, Nebraska has the 83rd SP Plus offense in the country. They have the 4th defense in the country. And they have the 131st special teams in the country. That is quite close to the bottom, Josh. And before you jump all over Bill about the offensive numbers or the defensive numbers and how those should be a little bit more flattened out, I tend to agree, but keep in mind it's using information, it's using past data points as well, right? You're not starting at 0, you're starting at where you've come from. It's a sort of rolling average, right? So I think Nebraska's offense is well better than the 83rd best offense in the country, but it certainly wasn't last year. It's improved, right? It's much better. It's not the 83rd best offense in the country. And Nebraska's defense right now is not the 4th best defense in the country. But that special teams number, which once again is a rolling average of the previous years, it's been bad. It remains bad. And I'm just telling you guys, like, it doesn't. So, I think it's great that Nebraska has Dylan Raiola. And I want to accentuate that as much as possible. You're always going to be in the game when you have a quarterback like that. And you have a defense as, serviceable to good to maybe even great sometimes as Nebraska's defense is. But the math equation, what they are going for, what they are trying to be, cannot and will not work if your special teams aren't better. So a couple things could happen. Number one, and I think this is the way they'll go, they'll just try to get better at special teams.
I like that. I like that idea.
They'll just double down in the process, right? We have to get better. Whether it's finding a guy who can snap the ball, who's walking around on campus, or try it out, whatever it might be. Find that and get Tristan Alvano back, or just put John Hull in a better position to where he's actually capable of making these kicks, and the snaps aren't bad and the holds aren't bad, or whatever it might be. Like, I think that's the way that they're going to play it, and it might be some time. Right? I don't think that gets better overnight, especially with the personnel that you have right now. Now, Josh, hear me out on option 2.
Okay.
Option 2 is going back to what I said at the beginning of this little spiel here, which is instead of, obviously you're always trying to get better at it, but instead of figuring out this exact math equation, you adjust the equation itself. You adjust the variables that you know. And that would mean Nebraska's offense going a little bit more like feeling the point where, all right, when we get into opponent territory, we're just going to go for it, point blank period. We're going to go a little no huddle. We're going to go throw the ball up and down the field. We're going to go tempo. And I think they like to, they're not going to be UCF or whatever, but I think, the more points you score erases some of your deficiencies on special teams. So you can sort of adjust the math equation. You can look at question number 2 on the test, and you could say, I don't like question number 2. Let's go back to it later. Let's try a different one. Let's try question number 3. Right?
And if you don't get it right, if you don't get number 2 right, you're hoping, hey, the other 98 questions on this test we're going to nail. So if we get this one wrong,
right,
who cares?
But that just shortens your margin for error, right?
Right.
You got to get those 98 questions right.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get those 98 other questions right. So and I think it's a great point you make, because I would hate to put more pressure on the offense, right? Like that's not what you want. You want each of the sides, the 1, 2, 3, the offense, defense, special teams, to hold up its own end of the bargain. And so Nebraska is not. So their goal is to be balanced in that way, right? They want to have a good enough offense, they want to have a really good defense, and they want to have good enough special teams. That's what they want to do. If we're looking at it in those really kind of binary terms, good enough offense, really good defense, good enough special teams. Well, if they decide that they can't get to good enough special teams, then that means they're going to have really good offense, really good defense. And there are things that happen when you have really good offense that make it a little bit more difficult on having really good defense. And so, like I said, the margins and the roads just become a little bit narrower and narrower and narrower. I wouldn't prefer it, that second option that I just laid out to you. I'd obviously prefer the first one, that they just get better at these things.
Right.
But there's no immediate solution. It's not as easy as polling a guy and saying, these are all our problems. I think it's pretty widespread. It was, Nebraska's special teams issues, I think long ago probably started at kicker, and you're looking for a kicker, and then you got kickers getting hurt, and then it kind of spread into the rest of it. Or maybe it's been bad for a long time, and guys like DeMornay Pearsonell and Amir Abdullah and Drew Brown and whatever just covered it up for all these years. Or J.D. Spielman in the return game. Maybe it's possible that and Nebraska's just been bad in this area for a really, really long time. But I think this has spread to everything. It's sort of a disease. It maybe started at the kicker. It maybe started with, oh man, we got a kicker injured. Like, what's going on? Because they had to know, right? They had to know that they were having some snapping issues going into the season, right?
Or at least
saying,
this might be a problem.
Is this not showing up in practice and just is showing up in the game? That seems to be the way that Rule is sort of, framing it up to us.
I find that hard to believe, but I guess it is possible.
Yeah. So you're at an impasse with this. This is an important moment. And once again, I'm not talking about a game to game thing. I'm talking about this is big picture. This is what you want your team to be. This is what you want your math equation to be, right? Are they going to adjust it, or are they just going to say we're going to do better at this? It's a big question, and it's an opinion at the same time, I guess. Any thoughts on YouTube, Josh? What are they saying over there?
I'm just culling the opinions off of there when people type them out, so we're ready.
They're not even listening to anymore. They're just listening to me anymore. They're just thinking of their opinions.
A lot of I have an opinions on the special teams.
That's good. What are they?
A lot of don't ever try a field goal again.
Okay, then when you do that, you are suggesting changing the math equation, right? You are suggesting that, and okay, so let's game that out a little bit. Nebraska is Dylan Raiola. They have some pretty good wide receivers. I don't see a problem with them trying to go up and down the field. Like, I think that works. I want that. Like, because I feel like they think that they can throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns a game, but they want to be what they want to be, right? That would erase or help mask some of your special teams issues. Can they be the type of offense to score 30, 35 points a game in this league? I don't know.
In this economy?
I'm not sure.
YouTube
user.
They didn't know they didn't have snapping issues going into the season, just like they didn't know they had quarterback turnover issues going into last year.
Yeah, he follows up and says, feels like we're having the same conversation. Yeah, maybe.
Might be something to that.
Maybe. I think they're also trying to convey confidence in those guys that are going to be out there and doing it. But yeah, I mean,
he's not going to go out there and throw his guys under the bus.
Cats out of the bag, guys. Like, it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. So now you have to figure out a way. Like, people are watching this now. right? People are watching specifically this, whether the snaps and the holds and the kicks are good, but it's not just that, it's the operation, it's the whole thing as well. And so what people want to see is improvement. Like it's got to get better. And it's a pretty black and white game that we play on, and especially on field goal kicking.
Right.
It's pretty binary.